Hey everyone, as y'all notice, I've been doing plenty of Pokemon videos recently, which I made a joke post about becoming a Pokemon YouTuber, which when I look at how long it takes me to make a short review, you know what, maybe that's something I should look into, but I digress. Anyway, I want to do something a bit different and experiment and talk about a series I love a lot. And you guys might have noticed that I'm using footage from Black and White, which will be today's subject. I will be talking about why giving Pokemon Black and White its own anime would be a great idea and something that should be pursued. But Gen 5 already had anime adaptation with Best Wishes. Well yeah, and Best Wishes did happen, and you know, it wasn't the best, but I'll talk about that in a moment. But all you might be saying too, what about the other generations? Why sing out Gen 5 alone and not focus on the other ones? Well my friends, if you lend me your ears, I'll explain why doing an adaptation of Black and White would be one of the best ideas Game Freak could do. I might as well get this point out of the way since it's something that everyone agrees on. The Best Wishes anime sucked. Even ignoring the issue with how they did Ash's character, among other bizarre changes to legacy characters, it's just a bad adaptation of the games. Barely any of the main story was actually adapted into the anime and extremely watered down. And it only happens near the end of the series. So yeah, expect that to be rushed as hell. To be fair, the production of the anime was really rocky, where the initial Team Plasma storyline had to be scrapped because of a real-life disaster that did a lot of damage to Japan, and these episodes were a bit poor in taste due to a lot of destruction in Castelia City. So yeah, it's understandable why these episodes never aired. Though you are left to wonder what could have been if things were different. What if they were able to adapt the Gen 5 story earlier and have time to develop it? Could have been great? Probably not, let's be real. As said, it did a lot of dumb choices, like having Ash's Pikachu lose to a beginner Snivy. Yeah, I know Pikachu was weak, but there's no way Pikachu doesn't win the fight before he gets weak. Ash only bringing one Pokemon to fight Elisa. Team Rocket's characters doing a 180 and becoming way too serious. Ash losing to a guy who's such a dumbass, he only brought 5 Pokemon to the Pokemon League and tripped to existence. My point is that if they couldn't even do their own original material well, what chances do they have with the good material from the games? So yeah, the Gen 5 anime was doomed before it even started. That does let me down because Black and White does have a great story, debatably the best in the series. Great moments like Bianca standing up to her dad, the gym leaders coming in clutch, and everything with N, just to name a few things that make those games so good. There's so much great material in those games, which is why an anime doing a good job of telling the story of Black and White would ease the pain of Best Wishes. Now yeah, the other thing sucked isn't strong enough to justify a full-on series for Black and White. But again, I want to focus on how these games were so good and how the stories are worth adapting again, plus how beneficial it would be for the series. For the latter point, it could give what a lot of Pokemon fans wanted, a mature Pokemon story. Now Pokemon has dipped its toes into mature storytelling, Generations and Origins being examples of that. And we have the manga as well, where it does get pretty dark. But what fans have been clamoring for is for a long-form anime which is aimed towards them, and Black and White would be perfect for that, since those games do have mature elements in them. The debates about Pokemon battling, the character work with N, and how fucky Ghetsis is as a person. These games have elements that older fans can enjoy. Ironic seeing how fans saw these games for years, but the most important thing is that Black and White has a great story. Now yes, Pokemon Black and White isn't the only game in the series with a compelling story. Diamond and Pearl and Sun and Moon are incredibly well written, plus what I've been told, the spin-off games have some good stuff. So what makes Black and White so different from the others? Simply, this might be the best story in the main series. Of course, you got your colorful cast of characters, from the likable rivals like Sharon and Bianca, to the coolness of the gym leaders like Elisa and Drayden. But the villains of the game is where it gets great. Of course, I mentioned N being a great character, but Ghetz is a wonderful villain, a man of pure evil, who has no redeeming qualities, who manipulated N from childhood, cared for no one and only craves power, a masterclass of evil, a top-tier Pokemon villain. Now, Pokemon has dealt with some villains that are pretty loathsome with what they did, but Ghetz takes it to a whole new level in how cruel and malicious he is. In the manga, when N tried to be nice to Ghetsis, after the whole thing, Ghetsis beats the shit out of him, because he's just that bad. Not to mention, Team Plasma is a great villain team. They operate in plain sight, being like PETA, pretending to care about Pokemon, while behind the scenes, they just want power and control over Unova. But underneath the obvious villains, we got a character who brings interesting themes to the story, N. While Ghetsis and Team Plasma are the big dogs, and provides some philosophical points to the table. He provides an emotional and mental challenge, where he challenges the idea of Pokemon being alongside humans. Should Pokemon be free, or do they really belong together with them? Like this element here sets Team Plasma apart from the other teams. Even if it's mostly bullshit, it's still a valid point since Pokemon battles can be quite brutal, and there have been plenty of bad trainers who have hurt their Pokemon, which feels Zen's point. Which, yeah, the anime did cover that aspect, but I prefer it being done with plenty of breathing room, so let's give it more time. Now, how the show would do its Pokemon would be a point of contention. In the first game, it's purely new Pokemon, nothing from the old generations until you beat the game. But in Black and White 2, Pokemon from the other generations are in from the start. Simple fix is of course just have the old Pokemon in from the start of Black and White. Yeah, I know it takes away a bit of the magic from the first games of being a soft reboot with fully original Pokemon, but if they did a sequel anime and adapt Black and White 2, this would be a massive headache to explain all these new Pokemon popping up. Plus, more Pokemon give a larger sandbox to play with when it comes to battles and things you can do with them. Heck, you can bring special forms of already existing Pokemon and do it for Unova, similar to Alolan and Galarian forms. But I think the best case you can make with a Black and White anime is what you can do with the characters with a darker tone. Now, I'm not suggesting we make everyone dark and edgy. This isn't Zack Snyder's Pokemon. I'm saying you can do great character work with darker tones. There's a great webcomic called Myths of Unova, which follows the plot of Black and White, but with a mature angle. And the writing for the characters is superb, with complex and intriguing character developments, which the darker tone allowed. With the characters being introspective and kind of dealing with the horrors of the Pokemon world when you look at it. Granted, it's a Nuzlocke comic, so it is going to be a lot darker, but still it proves that with a darker tone, you can explore it if done correctly. So overall, there is a great case to be made for a Gen 5 anime. It's one of the heights of the Pokemon series, with the story being S tier, and it would be incredible done in animation. There's so much potential here, it would be perfect. Though thinking something is a good idea isn't the same as it having a chance to exist. Now, with all my sipping for Gen 5 aside, what chances does this anime have of actually happening? Well, basically 0%. It's simply down to a matter of business. There's no reason to make an anime about Black and White. There's already a Pokemon anime that's doing quite well, so adding more onto it would be pointless. Not to mention the Pokemon company doesn't have much interest in doing big deep dives into past generations via the anime. Yeah, we have stuff like Pokemon Generations and Origins, but those were just miniseries. And yeah, Pokemon Journeys was more of a deep dive into the old generations, but that was more focused on Ash's journey rather than what I'm suggesting, which is just make a whole new story adapting the old games into their own timeline. Basically, it's not worth it for the Pokemon company to invest in something that goes against their vision of the series. Which is fair, it's their property. I mean, the series as a whole, despite the bad press it gets these days, is still going strong, with millions of copies sold with each game and a gigantic fan base that still shows its admiration. Heck, the new Pokemon show is doing very well, which I gotta watch one of these days. So the series is in a good place these days, and they have no need to do something as drastic as what I'm saying. Which yeah, breaks my heart, but hey, what can I do? So the question is, why did I make this video when I know there's no chance of this happening? It's because these games in particular should keep a special place in my heart. These games are some of the best I've ever played. I still remember how awesome the music is, the Pokemon, the gameplay, the story. It's just such a wonderful game. And while a part of me wants this anime to exist, so the games are done well this time, I just want people to experience how good these games are, since they are just genuinely awesome games. Of course, an anime isn't the only way you can experience the games. You can of course play Pokemon Black and White and sequel 2. And the manga adaptation is solid from what I hear. So Gen 5 does have great material, you just have to dig for it. But it's worth it. And who knows, maybe one day my dreams will come true and Black and White will have its anime. And if that happens, I ask the Pokemon Company one simple request. Please make me the showrunner! I promise you, I will cook up something incredible, or even a VA on the show. I don't care whatever role it is, I would take it, and it would be the greatest honor of my life. But enough of me simping, let's wrap this up. Thank you all for watching. It was nice making this video. Showing appreciation for this generation was a pleasant ride, which I hope I inspire you to check out. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. And who knows, maybe one day we will get something for Gen 5. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot. If you have any suggestions for Pokemon content, let me know. Since I might not have time for my usual content in the next few months, I'm willing to experiment with Pokemon. And I hope all you guys enjoy as well. That's all I have to say. Take care everyone and have a good day.